Introducing Full Out with Brittany Ross.
I can do this. Let's go, LETSGO. Okay, guys, welcome to Full Out. This is our first solo episode. I'm really excited that you're watching. If you're watching, I thought I would tell my own cheer story on Full Out. First off, Full Out, if you weren't a competitive college cheerleader like me, if you didn't devote your entire life to cheerleading, at least more than half of it, you might not know what Full Out means. It's going like completely all out. Like when we do our routines, our coaches will say, okay, full out this time. And you have to do facials. That's like winks, smiles, that kind of stuff. But you also have to flip and be thrown 30 feet in the air and do all of your tricks, like tricks. We don't really call them tricks, but now I'm older and I guess I call them tricks now. But you have to do all of your stunts and tumbling passes completely full out. I started gymnastics when I was 8. And then I got to a point where I was leaving school early because I started going so often. And I was going 6 days a week and leaving school early and getting out of PE because I was at gymnastics all the time. And I was living in Texas and I went to Mochiano's Gymnastics, which was Dominique Mochiano's gym that her parents owned. And I really liked it. But I also really liked talking, and I would get in trouble for talking all the time. And our coach made a rule that we weren't allowed to be friends outside of practice. And those are the only people I ever saw. And I just really wanted to talk to people and have friends. So I decided I was going to also, my coach ran away with Dominique Mucciano when she was under 18, and I think he's in jail now. But that's very on par for cheerleading gymnastics coaches. Surprise, surprise. They're all in jail. If they were good, they're all in jail. I loved gymnastics, but I also wanted to have friends. So I decided to quit gymnastics and do cheerleading. And I remember when I told my mom I was going to quit gymnastics, being like terrified to tell her that I was going to quit gymnastics. And I was sitting in these chairs we had in our kitchen that like rolled around. They were like on wheels. We used to have chairs on wheels, I guess, in kitchens. And I remember just like rolling around while I was telling her because I was so nervous anyways. But she was very supportive of it, so she took me to a cheerleading gym the next day. And I became obsessed with cheerleading. So obsessed that I like changed all of my pillowcases in my room to one that said eat, sleep, cheer, repeat, because in my mind, without cheer, why breathe? I'm just kidding. Cheerleaders don't eat, but that's for later in the story. I was really obsessed, and I started just like traveling around the country for cheerleading competitions in like skimpy little uniforms and just spraying ourselves head to toe in glitter, which was like not just body glitter. It was like paint grade glitter we got from Home Depot, and we just like aerosol sprayed ourselves down with glitter. But, you know, I was on a competitive team, so the stuff we were doing was dangerous. Like I was getting concussions all the time. I broke my wrists. I broke my ankle. I'm like, but my mom never was like, you should stop doing this, which now as a mom, I'm like, interesting. But then I got offered a full ride scholarship to cheer for Hawaii Pacific University. And at the time it was the best cheerleading team in the country, which basically means the world because nobody outside of the US knows or cares about cheerleading. And my husband's first language is actually French. And I was like, how do you say cheerleader in French? And he's like, we don't, cheerleader. And I was like, okay, cool. There's no way to say cheerleader in French. I don't even exist in French. But you know, my mom and I, when I got offered the scholarship, we jumped around as if I'd gotten into Harvard, because for like a competitive cheerleader, this was like the equivalent of me getting into Harvard. And so I went to Hawaii Pacific. I showed up. Well, the coach did tell my mom. I remember he called us and he's like, there's one stipulation to the scholarship. And I was about this size at the time, still the same size as I am now. And he's like, if Brittany gains any weight, she will lose her scholarship. And I remember my mom being like horrified. And then she was like, what? My daughter knows how to take her diet pills. No, my mom did slip diet pills into my suitcase and sent me to Hawaii. Like when I was cheering, everybody was taking diet pills, and they were the ones that still had amphetamines in them, and they were not banned by the FDA yet. So you can like look up about how old I am based on that. So I went to Hawaii. I showed up for my first practice, and my stunt partner, I was like excited. I was like nervous. I was 18. I was like so nervous to be on this team, but I was like excited. I was like, I'm going to make a name for myself. And I got paired up with my stunt partner, who was 27 and had already won college nationals 6 times. And I know everybody's thinking, like, how do you win college nationals 6 times when college is max like 4 years? But cheerleading is not regulated by the NCAA, even though it has the highest number of catastrophic injuries. It's not regulated by the NCAA, which means there's like 0 regulations on how long you can stay in college cheerleading for. So this is what the trajectory of a college cheerleader was in my day. Like, you join a team that you think is going to win nationals that year. You maintain whatever GPA the school tells you you need to have, which is usually very low to like have your scholarship, to keep your scholarship like 2.0. So nothing that smart. And then you go to Daytona, where college nationals is, you win nationals, and then you immediately withdraw from all of your classes. And then you just pick a team that's projected to win the next year, or you just, because for us, like competitive college cheerleaders, that's the end of the road for us. NFL cheerleaders are dancers and they cheer for other people. Competitive college cheerleaders, we're athletes and we cheer for ourselves. And there's nothing for us after college cheerleading. So people just want to stay in forever, because for a college cheerleader, a diploma is career suicide. So we would stay in cheerleading forever. I thought I was going to stay in forever. And we were just like so injured all the time. Like I broke my ankle, my wrist, like I broke so many things. Our team motto was losing hurts worse. So I tumbled for a month on broken wrist because I refused to go to the doctor. I was just like, I'm fine. Mostly in so much pain. But if you say you're hurt, there's like 6 other people on the sidelines waiting to take your spot. So if you're waiting on the sides, if you're an alternate or something, you're cheering on your team, but you're also like secretly hoping that somebody gets really badly hurt so you can take their spot. And I was like, I'm going to stay in cheer paradise forever, like everyone else on my team. One day I went to warm up in the morning, like at our 5 a.m. practice, with my typical like pre-dawn backflip that I'd been able to do since I was like 7 years old. And I threw my arms up and I like went to pull my legs overhead, and I just stopped midair and I kind of like fell on my head and rolled over. And I couldn't stop thinking about like why my body betrayed me like that. I was like, why did I just lose control of my body? It's like very similar to Simone Biles' situation. I had this mental block. I wouldn't let myself flip backwards no matter what I tried, because now by this time I was 21, and I would just try and flip and I would like stop. I would not let myself flip backwards. And I realized like, oh shit, my prefrontal cortex has matured, I think. And that's not supposed to happen until you're 25. It's the part of your brain that tells you like, stop, don't do that. It's dangerous. And I like somehow that developed early for me. And I was like, what kind of maturity schedule am I on, honestly? Because I'm still waiting for boobs to this day. And my brain decided to lock into place early. And I was like, what is going on? And I tried everything to get over this mental block. Like I would talk nicely to myself. I'd yell at myself. I'd like do all these visualization techniques. I tried going to practice drunk and like nothing worked. I like still wouldn't flip backwards. And so I ended up getting kicked off of my team, and I lost my scholarship because you can't be on the best team if you can't do a backflip. And I remember I was like crying to the bartender at TGI Fridays, where we always hung out. And I was like, I have no other life skills. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. And he leaned across the bar. His name was Dan. We called him Dan the Fridays man. He leaned across the bar and he was like, you don't need any life skills to act. And I was like, what? And He's like, I'm in this acting class in the back room of a hair salon. And he's like, it's taught by the head acting teacher on Baywatch. And he's like, you can be in this class. And I remember I went home and I like drunkenly climbed into bed and I was like, I don't know, like, could I do that? And like, it was like the first time I pictured something other than cheerleading for myself. I was like, it seems like way harder to die while acting. And I was like, they're surely not going to care about my weight and appearance nearly as much in acting. Like, I'm never going to age out of acting. And so then I decided, I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And I graduated early and I moved to LA. And I was like, I'm never to like this. I thought I was moving to like a healthier lifestyle than cheerleading. And I remember thinking like, I'm never going to cheer again. I'm going to burn my cheerleading shoes. I like kept telling everyone I'm burning my cheerleading shoes. And I got to LA and then I've just played a cheerleader on TV pretty much ever since I got here. So that discipline and stuff that I had as a cheerleader definitely affects who I am now today in my life. Like, I'm really competitive. I won't stop. I won't give up. And I've met a few other people who are out here as like competitive cheerleaders who have like, it seems it's definitely a helpful thing to have done before coming to Los Angeles, because it feels like it was way harder than whatever I'm doing now, which everybody says is the hardest thing to do. So yeah, I guess that's how I got here as a cheerleader, and I'm kind of like stuck as a cheerleader. Even now when I'm like, I can't play a teenage cheerleader anymore, I play high school reunion cheerleader. I play like all these are the jobs that I get. So it's forever my identity. And now I have a podcast about it too. So when I got here, I feel like I started working on some like Disney shows. I played a cheerleader on a few of those. And then I played like the mean high school cheerleader on The Middle for a really long time. That show was on for 9 years. And I remember when I would go to set to play the cheerleader for The Middle, they wouldn't let me do stunts because I was an actor now. And they're very worried about actors getting hurt. And like, you can't even like walk out in the sun without somebody holding an umbrella for you. If you're walking from your trailer to set or something, there'll be like 3 people holding an umbrella for you. And I was like, I'm fine. I can do this. And they would have stunt doubles or like a cheerleading team come in and do certain stunts. And I remember one time being like, you have to let me do this stunt. This is the easiest stunt ever. Like, it's a nothing stunt. And if I don't do this and anybody I know sees this, it's going to ruin my reputation as a cheerleader. Because I guess I still cared. But yeah, it was funny. My friend who played the other mean high school cheerleader with me, she'd never cheered before. So I would give her like lessons before we would, film our scenes and stuff. And then, yeah, I just feel like there was a point in my life where if I put on my cheerleading uniform and went to an audition, I knew I would get the job. Now I do stand up and I like occasionally talk about cheerleading things on stage. And I'm like, I think for a long time I was a little embarrassed by it maybe, that I devoted so much of my life to cheerleading, something that means like nothing to anybody else. And I used to think, why didn't somebody tell us that if we put this on a resume, people would just be like, okay, we don't care. Because when you're in cheerleading, it's such a small world, just like anything you're in. And you think it matters that much to everybody else, but nobody actually cares. But I feel like it does, like, it definitely affects my personality. Like, my poor husband, like, if he's ever sick, I'm like, suck it up. I have a very suck it up mentality. I have a daughter. I don't ever want her to be a cheerleader because it's so dangerous. It's like so scary to think about her doing that. And then my husband is from Switzerland and he never wants her to be a cheerleader just because he doesn't understand what it actually is. Part of me is like wants her to be a cheerleader just because I think it freaks my husband out so badly. But I've been like teaching her some stuff in the pool recently, like putting her in stunts, and she's obsessed with it. And the other night I had a nightmare, like a full nightmare, had this dream that my daughter, who's 5, was on a cheerleading team. And I was like back in my old cheer gym in Texas. And I was watching her from like the fishbowl window up above where the cheer moms are like psycho and watch their kids and like yell at their kids from up there. And I was watching her from up there and I saw these guys like stunting with her. And I was like, oh, I should go down and ask them to stunt. That looks really fun. I would love for them to like throw me up in the air and do some stunts. And I went down there and I was about to ask them. And then all of a sudden I was like, I'm the mom. Oh my God, I'm the mom. I can't ask them to do that. And yeah, the next day I just was contemplating my mortality all day. I just was like, oh my God, I'm the mom now. How did this happen? How am I the mom? So I definitely don't want her to be a cheerleader because I'd just be like that weird Regina George mom from Mean Girls who's like, hey, I'm here to do it too, which I cannot do that. I can't be that person. So every week we're going to read some of your full out stories that you send us, just anywhere in your week where you went full out, where you did something with like max 100% energy. It doesn't have to be cheerleading. It doesn't have to be your job or anything, just anywhere where you think you went full out. So we have a few that people have sent in. And I'm going to read them. David's full out story. Hey, pod team. I went full out this week celebrating myself. I had family visiting and I recently had a promotion as well as a book release. Congrats. I'm really uncomfortable celebrating my own accomplishments, usually. My therapist and I can dig into that some other time. But I felt like it was finally a good time to let myself feel good about what I've been able to do. So what did I do to go full out this week? I booked a reservation at Providence, a restaurant I'd been dying to go to since I moved to LA, now with 3 Michelin stars, and had an amazing meal. It lived up to all the hype, was worth every penny, and I got to really feel proud of myself. I'll go full out on a smaller scale in the future, but it felt really good to go full out. Full out this time and take it to the limit. Everyone should treat themselves sometime and go full out. Okay, great. I feel like if you want to keep going full out, you could probably just cancel your therapy sessions and just go to Michelin star restaurants instead, because it's probably worth the same amount of money. And it seems like you fixed your problem that you were working on in therapy already. So my recommendation is just spend money on restaurants and forget about your mental health. Pilot's full out story, which also that's a really great name. Feels like a very full out name. I feel like her parents went full out when they named her. Hi, Brittany. I'm on a trip around Europe with my girlfriends, and while there are a lot of times we went full out, one time stands out. We were taking a train from Nice, France to Paris, and halfway through our train had a crazy delay. The ride was only supposed to be 5 hours and ended up being 9 hours, and we didn't pack any food. At hour 7, we got so hungry, we broke into one of our souvenir chocolates, supposed to be from my mom, that had melted and hardened into the tin. Without any way to get it out, we started scraping it with our teeth, practically tearing the thing apart like we hadn't eaten in weeks. After practically licking the tin clean, the train started again, and we felt like rabid animals. Okay, I love that. I remember one time I was in Hawaii, and we had an earthquake, and I lived in this 40-story apartment building. We got thrown out of our beds. The building like swayed back and forth. We lost all power in the building. And my roommates and I, our first response was to eat all of the food in our house because we realized we weren't going to be able to buy food. And we're like, okay, let's just eat everything. And then and then we were like, oh crap, we have no food left. And we just ate everything we had, which at the time was probably like peanut butter, grapes, and frozen broccoli because we were also cheerleaders. And I'm sure your mom would be totally fine with you eating her chocolate. All right, Chelsea's full out story. Hi, full out team. We're a team. I'm Chelsea. This week I went full out on a flight with my toddler who has the energy of a caffeinated squirrel and the flexibility of a Cirque du Soleil performer. This sounds like a future cheerleader kid to me. My husband got seated elsewhere, lucky him, so it was just me and my tiny tornado. We rotated through 10-minute Moana intervals, followed by intense rounds of let's try to karate kick the seat in front of us. I'm hoping you meant to say not to karate kick the seat in front of us, but everybody parents differently, and attempt a jailbreak over the back seat. The grand finale, a full body toddler meltdown that required me to physically restrain him like I was training for the WWE. One arm around his torso, one around his legs, and a silent prayer to the travel gods. He passed out the second we landed. I, on the other hand, may never recover. Oh my gosh. Well, good job trying to restrain him, because I feel like I've been on many planes where people don't try and restrain their kids. I once was seated, we went to Switzerland with I have a baby and another kid. So we went to Switzerland with my older kid. My husband's from Switzerland. You'll hear about it later, I'm sure. I went there, and the baby was really little, and my husband thought he was doing something good I went to the bathroom and I came back and he was like, okay, so they had us all seated together, but they didn't have like a bassinet in front of us for the baby, but they said they could give you and the baby a seat in the back of the plane where there's like an extra seat next to you, so you'll have more space for you and the baby. So I said yes to that. I hope that's okay. So basically, I sat in the back of the plane with our baby for 11 hours. I was like, are you kidding me? You like put me in the back alone with the baby? And I was breastfeeding the baby, so I had to be the one with him. I couldn't be like, yeah, you go sit back there with the baby. So I was like, what am I supposed to do on an 11-hour flight with a baby? Like, I can't watch something. I have nobody to talk to. And I was so mad. And 11 hours with nothing to do is a lot of time to spiral about the divorce that you're going to get and like where you're going to live, where you're going to live when you get home, and like your kids seeing their dad every other weekend and on Wednesdays. And then I was like, they'll probably see me every other weekend and on Wednesdays because he's a really good dad. And they're going to be like, we want our dad. And I'm going to be the weekend dad. I'm going to be like the dad in the divorce. Anyways, I kind of lost it. And I guess if you are traveling with your husband, just make those arrangements beforehand of like who's going to sit with the kid half the time. Okay, well, I'm still married. Thanks for tuning in for our first Full Out episode. And if you want to write in with your Full Out stories, which if you need a place to like let it all out, write us at thoughts@fulloutpod.com. We want to hear from you. Some of you, if they're good. Keep your dumb blowjob stories to yourself. If you have an interesting one, fine. But like, a blowjob story is a blowjob story, guys.